I'm here with Deborah Weinstein, who's the Executive Director of the Coalition for Human Needs. Thank you for stopping by.
I'm very glad to be here.
The Congressional Budget Office has announced that it's expecting a federal deficit of $1.8 trillion for this year. And already the response from the right has been that this is a further proof that we cannot afford to do some of the things that President Obama wants to do in his budget. How do you respond to that?
I think it's completely backwards, that the deeper deficit that we have now is because the economy is worse than we thought. And that means we have to do more of what the president is asking, more of the recovery legislation, more of the investing that gets us out of the hole. The people who are saying do less are flying in the face of all the economic advice and flying in the face of history. We know that we're not going to get where we need to go unless we start investing in the services, the programs that will help us put people back to work, have a sane and effective and efficient healthcare system that reaches people and is not a drain on our economy the way the current situation is, that starts to invest in energy efficiency so we can start making new kinds of products that will get jobs to people and enrich us as a nation in the years to come. That's what we need to do. We need to do more of that. And the president's budget has a blueprint that starts to get us there.
Okay. Well, you've been particularly focused on what this budget is doing for lower income people. What difference would this budget make for poor people?
The president's budget does a tremendous amount for low-income people in a number of different ways. It would, for instance, make permanent some of the tax credits that are particularly dedicated to low-income children and low-income families, and that's something that was started in the recovery plan, but that they would allow to continue. There is an investment in education. There is an investment in early childhood, a home visiting program, nurse home visiting program that would start something helpful. It continues the unemployment insurance expansion that was started in the recovery plan. It invests for the first time in a national housing trust fund so that there will be $1 billion invested so we can have more low-cost housing.
Yeah.
And of course the health care plan too would be of tremendous benefit to low-income people. There are more things, but those are some things that would be particularly helpful.
I know you've been concerned for years under the Bush administration about how far behind poor people fell, lower income people fell, because budgets were cut, not just at the federal level, but in a lot of states were not able to keep up with the need either. So does this repair a lot of that damage?
Well, it's a start. We have a lot to turn around. We've done a lot of looking at the annual appropriations, things like education, housing, child welfare services, various other kinds of social and community services that over the past 5 years, or really longer even, have shrunk badly. At the same time, the need is growing. So it's not as though problems that are years in the making can be overturned in 1 year. But at least the president has well above inflation growth in the pot of money that those services can be funded out of. And that's very important. And in fact, that's one of the things that there will be battles about in Congress, where people say, oh no, that number is too high. But frankly, we desperately need to rebuild. We need to make sure that families can afford housing. We need to make sure that they have education, and that young people who are trying to get into college can afford to go. Those are all investments too, and the president begins to make those investments.
As you've gone around the country, what is the one myth that you've heard about the budget and about Obama's budget plan that has really disturbed you, and how do you respond to it?
Well, people who say that it's just a lot of wasteful spending, it's government spending, that is very frustrating to me, because that's exactly what we need right now. We've got credit markets that have shut down and businesses that are shutting down, and we need that infusion of dollars into productive programs, the kinds of things, again, the education, the housing, the creating the infrastructure in health and physical infrastructure that puts people to work and that creates the kinds of things that are of value to our country, so that after we've built them, just as from the Depression, we have public buildings that are kind of in disrepair now, but they've stood us in good stead for many decades because we made that investment then. And now we need to make another round of investment. So the myth that that's wasteful spending and that we just shouldn't do it is exactly wrong. It's supposed to be the lesson we learned in the Depression.
Right. And plus, there are people like you that if some of these programs go astray, you'll call them out on it.
Well, that's right. We are not a vested interest. Our only concern is that low-income people, vulnerable people, people who are trying to get into the middle class, get the services that they need. We want every last dollar to be used effectively so that people are helped. That's all that we want, and we are going to put the word out across the country for examples of programs that are succeeding, because we want them to be models and we should do more of that, and we want to know when it's not succeeding, because we can't afford to waste a dime.
Gotcha. One final question. How is this budget fight going to play out over the next few weeks, and how can ordinary people get involved?
Thank you for asking that, because if ordinary people don't get involved, then we will have a replay of the powers that be, the comfortable types that are well accustomed to working their way in the system. They'll have their way again. And so the battles that we'll see is that all of the fair sources of revenue and savings that will allow us to have the health care that we need, allow us to have the response to climate change that we need, that'll give us the education that we need, that all of those things are going to be opposed by somebody. And usually somebody with a fair amount of money and influence. So if the public isn't out there responding, then the special interests win. So how can the special interests have a voice in opposition to them to stand up for what the public needs? Well, we're part of something that's called the Rebuild and Renew America Now campaign, and we hope that people will join with us. The House and Senate budget committees will be acting this coming week on their start of the budget resolution,
right.
And we need people to be contacting their senators, their representatives, to say, we favor the president's budget priorities. And people can find out how to be part of that. They can go on our website, chn.org, or Rebuild and Renew America I think that's it.
Right.
.org. You'll immediately see what you can do to help.
All right. Well, thank you, and I wish you much success.